I don't know if you can identify with this, but I have to deal with a really difficult person in my ministry. This person has all kinds of blind spots, and as I'm trying to lead them, they just get in the way because of their character flaws, their way of thinking, their self-identity problems, their habits, and their lack of skill in relating to others. This makes my job incredibly frustrating, and it limits my effectiveness at accomplishing what God has called me to do. Now, you may have figured out that I'm not talking about someone else. The person I'm talking about is actually myself. I have found that our greatest challenge as navigator leaders is not in leading others, but in leading ourselves well. My name is Mark, and I work with the navigators in Japan, and I'm also involved in leader development. And today I'd like to invite you to something that will change and grow you as a leader forever: learning to lead yourself well. In the Navigators, we have LDI, Leader Development Initiative. This is a program for emerging leaders in the Navigators that focuses on the topic of leading others. This has become our flagship leader development program, and through it, we've developed hundreds of leaders who are now serving across our Navigator ministries. But one thing we find from them is they always say things to us like, "Oh, I wish I had gotten some of this content 10 years ago," especially learning how to lead myself better. And so due to this, we have actually decided to change the name LDI to LDI 2. Why, you may ask? Well, the reason why is because now we are beginning a new program, LDI 1, which is centered around the theme of leading self. Unlike LDI 2, this program focuses on who leaders are. It's a prequel to our current LDI 2 program. It will coincide with supervisor training, which is focused on role-specific skills, whereas LDI 1, it focuses on you, the leader as a person. Therefore, it can be done before or after supervisor training. Now let's go to the scriptures. The Old Testament is replete with examples of leading self principles. Proverbs 24:16 says, "Better to be patient than powerful. Better to have self-control than conquer a city." The Old Testament esteems inner mastery. Bringing yourself under the lordship of God is how we lead ourselves. And that's expressed through our self-control, through our patience. This is esteemed greater than having influence over other people. The New Testament also has so many examples of advice to young leaders and encouraging them to start with leading self. Look at Paul's advice to young Timothy in 2 Timothy 4:12 and following. It says, "Don't let anyone look down on you because you're young, but set an example for the believers in speech, conduct, in faith, love, and purity. Don't neglect your gift. Be diligent in these matters." Catch this. "Pay close attention to yourself and your doctrine, because if you do, you will save both yourself and your hearers." This passage is dripping with leading self principles. For example, inner life formation, self-awareness, self-stewardship, the foundations of leadership, and servanthood. So if you are 25 to 35 years old and you've completed your staff training, you're looking for your next developmental opportunity, I'd like to invite you to apply to LDI 1. And you may be asking, well, what does this actually look like? Well, LDI 1 consists of 7 modules of 7 weeks each for a total of 13 months. And each of these modules introduce a principle centered around leading self. And the engine that drives the whole process is servant leadership. In a world where people are clawing their way to the top, Jesus said to his followers, "Among you it will be different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant." We believe that a servant leader is the primary biblical metaphor for leading self. It's the identity, posture, and perspective of a servant of God and a servant of people. All the greats in the Bible and in church history had this foundation: a deep and abiding concern for others. To grow in this inner orientation of servant leader, we're going to explore many aspects of leading self. And so here are some of the other modules: self-awareness and inner formation, leadership foundations. And we're going to do 2 modules on identity. Identity from an ethnic perspective, from a gender perspective, and also from a spiritual perspective. Lastly, we're going to talk about all these lessons on leading self. How do they express themselves in leading from the NAV core? This is an incredible menu of topics that will provide for you a foundation. And this foundation, leaders with these kind of foundations are prepared for sustainable kingdom impact. What do the modules look like? Well, within each of the modules, as I mentioned, there are about 7 weeks. Inside these boxcars, there are different boxes, and there's a rhythm of what we call practice. This is the rhythm of intentional practice and learning. And so the module starts off with input topics like Bible studies, articles, videos, interviews, a few books through the program to stretch your thinking and understanding. This is followed by reflection, and especially self-understanding kind of reflection to help you understand yourself better. It doesn't stop there. We move into action, stretching activities to begin to put into practice the principles in your daily life and ministry. And then again, going back to reflection. So it's like walking: input, reflection, action, reflection. This rhythm ensures that this becomes not just a part of your thinking, but a part of your life. Again, this is not a program that is done in isolation or self-study. Rather, there is going to be lots of personal interaction. Each module begins with a live stream event of 45 minutes in which the next module is introduced, and all of the members from your class will be in this live stream. And then in the middle of the module, you'll have a chance to do a pair talk or a triad talk with another member in your group, and you'll spend some time reflecting and brainstorming on some of the input and action exercises. At the end of the module, you're going to have time with your peer learning cohort. This is 4 other people from of Navigator staff who are in the program, who every module you'll have a chance to interact with and reflect on all the lessons during these 7 weeks. Notice too, between each module, there's a week off, so you get to take a little breather each time. Lastly, commitments. What are the commitments and requirements for you to join LDI 1? Well, basically, the biggest commitment is your time and energy. 3 hours a week is what we're asking for you to commit to. Also, there's a 3-day mandatory gathering in Colorado Springs in January. And to participate in that, everyone needs to pay $250 plus transportation expenses. Now, all of this can be ministry expense, and you can raise money to cover this. This is an amazing price, given that many 1 or 2 day leader development events in the corporate world can cost thousands of dollars. So lastly, I just want to challenge you and invite you to invest a year and to learn to lead the most difficult person, yourself.